Hello and welcome back to Drawlords. Today we're going to be building a lookout character who has some uncanny sense of luck. This character is always going to be escaping from dangerous situations in the nick of time. Today I'll go through one build in depth and then I'll throw in an extra idea near the end for other possibilities and variations of this build. But before I get there, I would quickly like to tell you guys about my new Etsy store where you can buy hoodies and t-shirts with some of my coolest designs. A link to the store will be in the description down below. Okay, onto the actual build now. Starting with race. Taking the old faithful human variant for a feat level 1 will be super helpful. Starting the game with lucky to capture the innate luck of this character is great. Getting rerolls is always going to be strong. Or you could go for observant to push the more lookout side of this superstitious steward. Either way, you'll probably want to take the other one a little later, either 4th or 8th level. The main class we're going into today is going to be Warlock, so you're going to max out that charisma first as a priority. Then we're going to want a little bit of wisdom just so we can buff that perception, though you don't need to put too much in for reasons I'll get onto in a second. Bear in mind that we will be taking Rogue later in the video, spoiler alert, so you do need to make sure your dexterity is 13 or higher, which shouldn't be begrudged as dex will help out your AC, dex saves, and not getting launched out of the crow's nest when your ship gets hit by a wave. From levels 1 to 3, Warlock is the way to go, specifically Pact to the Fiend. Immediately, this is going to buff your survivability, giving you temporary HP when you reduce another creature's HP to 0, so you're really going to try and snipe those low HP enemies. You're also going to pick up 2 Eldritch Invocations, these being Devil's Sight for that amazing dark vision, including Magical Darkness, don't forget, and Armour of Shadows for a nice AC buff, though I'm going to switch out that Eldritch Invocation for Aspect to the Moon straight away at level 3 because I think this better fits a lookout, though that's up to you. To get Aspect to the Moon you're going to have to take Pact to the Tome, which is what we're going to do, because this pact gives us some very nice features such as access to 3 very flavourful invocations that match perfectly with this build, all which I'll go on to in later levels. It also gives us access to the cantrips from other classes, and for me the standout is Vicious Mockery. I think it fits into this character's motif of being very hard to kill. Maybe his enemies went against some superstitions, or he just got lucky and managed to dodge out the way at the last second. For the next 3 levels we're going to go into Rogue. Straight away we get Expertise, which is where our high perception comes in. Even without a bonus to Wisdom, you're still going to have a fairly high perception. But say you got a 14 or 16, that's even higher. Also, if you have Observant, your passive perception is going to be absolutely incredible. I'm also going to take double proficiency in Acrobatics to really emphasise the fact that this guy lives up in the crow's nest, swinging around the ropes Pirates of the Caribbean style. At 2nd level, Cunning Action is going to help with this more mobile idea for the character, allowing them to stay in the optimum place of the battlefield to get the best view and stay out of harm's way. This mobility is even further pushed by taking Scout as our roguish archetype, allowing us to move as a reaction to escape enemies within 5 feet and giving us even more proficiencies. Whether you take the first 3 levels in Rogue or Warlock really depends on the flavour progression you want your character to take and their interactions with their patron. Maybe this character starts off as a lookout with some superstitions and an inherent sense of luck, who encounters this book of tales and superstitions that starts giving him dreams, or is writing its own stories and superstitions. Or maybe this character's always had this book, and somewhat supernatural powers. That depends on Rogue or Warlock style in my opinion. Either way, I like the patron for this character being some sort of storyteller, or maybe Lady Luck herself. One of the simple common superstitions this character could have is that you must always pay the tide as you leave port, tossing a coin over the prow as you set off. From here, the build can take many forms. You can continue Warlock through to 17th level, gaining access to those huge 9th level spells, and having a focus on growing the power of this character's spellcasting and superstitions, and their sort of supernatural powers. Or you can throw in more levels of Rogue. This improves the skills and martial prowess of the character, getting features like Uncanny Dodge and Evasion to further buff survivability, makes you harder to hit, and further gaining reliable talent and blind sense to improve the luck factor of this character. These features also enhance the character's martial prowess, like I said. Being able to leap around the ship's rigging and take shots at enemy with a higher damage sneak attacks is quite nice, especially if you're playing in a lower magic setting. For the main build of this video, I'm taking the character to 17th level Warlock. One of the core mechanics to Warlock are invocations, which is part of the reason Warlocks are my favourite class. The invocations you will want to take for this build are Fast Scribe at Warlock level 5 to make the most of your powers of perception to silently alert your allies to danger when speaking could alert your enemies. This also works for stealth missions too. Ghostly Gaze at Warlock level 7 so that even solid barriers prove ineffective at escaping your watchful eyes. It can be useful to scout out a building for possible dangers or to see what lurks around a corner or behind that locked door. Gift of the Protectors at Warlock 9 allows you to spread your luck to your allies in the nick of time to save them, significantly buffing your party's survivability. Imagine the fighter is up front with a dragon who's focusing them down, and then thinking the fighter's down, the dragon turns away, only for your tome to start glowing and the fighter stands back up again to strike once more. As for the remaining invocation, you have some great choices. Mask of Many Faces is a good option for a covert spy flavour, allowing you to easily slip into the bustling crowds of a city or shake guards, and Shroud of Shadows is excellent to avoid enemy fire and makes you the almost perfect scout and lookout in one. Can't be spotted if you're invisible all the time. Now onto the spells, and the spells you're going to take from your Warlock add an insane amount of flavour to this already interesting character, and obviously they're the main part of your power. Generally the spells we're going to take aren't the super damaging ones like Fireball. We're more focusing on enchantment spells like Fears, Charms, or evasive spells to control the battlefield and avoid death. I won't go over every good choice you could take in this video, or it'd be insanely long. However, I will cover the more important ones and leave a more complete list of the best spell choices in the description. While you're down there, you can also leave any future ideas for build concepts or your own takes on this character concept. Kicking it off, we have Charm Person and Cause Fear. These are two solid choices for avoiding combat or debuffing your enemies for harder hitting allies to come to your aid. Both of these spells scale well with your Warlock slots, allowing you to target more people to cause the greatest impact with your precious spell slots. Darkness is a useful spell in the same way that invisibility is useful. However, Darkness has the added benefit of making your allies mask from danger as well as yourself, though keep in mind that they will be just as lost as your helpless enemies, and it's only in a 20-foot radius, I believe. Teleportation magic is always useful to have to escape the jaws of certain death. Spells like Misty Step, Dimension Door and Fast Step all have their own uses, though Misty Step doesn't scale, so using high level spell slots later in game can feel wasteful. Scrying allows you to spot the enemy before they even know your whereabouts, which to me sounds like a very useful tool for a lookout. I can imagine this character reading the self-writing books of their tome to see the subjects of this spell. Etherealness and Demiplane can both offer useful respites from battle, allowing you to have more utility for your party. I have personally used Demiplane in my own campaign a lot to hide away from dungeon crawls, to allow the party to safely rest for a long rest. And finally, for that big 9th level spell. Looking from the list, I'm thinking either Psychic Scream or Weird for some huge AoE stuns and fears that can completely control the battlefield. When choosing these spells, I always try and think of a cinematic moment where these hugely powerful spells and abilities change the tide of battle for the better. And there we have it, that's the build complete. In the end, you're left with a really unique, utility-based lookout build that excels in perception and battlefield control, as well as being incredibly hard to lock down in one area, whether that's combat or in a city setting. This has been a character I've been wanting to play for a while, so let me know in the comments what you think about it, or any changes you'd make to the build. Now for the bonus build variation. This one's mostly for flavour, though it does add a little bit of a unique twist on this already lucky character. What we're going to do is throw in some wizard levels, which just 2 will do fine for this build, and I'd recommend fitting them in instead of the 2nd and 3rd levels rogue if you're going to go for it. You're going to take either Chronergy or Divination wizards, and as you can see, the features you will get allow you to control people's luck even more than what you get from Lucky. Like I said, this isn't necessarily the most powerful build option, but if this little add-on appeals to you, then by all means take it, it's there. Just make sure you have the ability scores to stick a 13 into intelligence to make it possible. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts on it and any ideas you have for this character concept in the comments down below. Also be sure to leave any suggestions for character concepts you might want me to cover in the comments as well. And one last note, I'm thinking of doing a series explaining all the characters I've played and where they are now, and then my plans for them in the future. So be sure to leave a like if that's something you want to see. And don't forget to check out my shop. And with all that said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next video.